Just so. I'm Beth Feldman Brandt. I'm the Executive Director of the Stockton Rush Bartol Foundation, and we support in-depth arts education and community-based arts programs in Philadelphia and the artists who teach them. Every year we make about $120,000 in grants to 20 organizations, and we also present 20 free professional development programs for about 300 teaching artists. Our whole foundation is me 4 days a week, and Melissa, who you probably met because Melissa meets everybody, 3 days a week, and a couple of stringers. We've been called the nonprofit of foundations, but we like to think we're scrappy.
I'm Joe Pyle from the Scattergood Foundation. We focus on thinking, doing, and supporting good in order to establish a new paradigm for behavioral health, one which recognizes the unique spark and basic dignity in every human life. Each year we give about $800 to $1 million in grants, and in addition to our grant making, we provide technical assistance and thought leadership, all with the goal of enhancing behavioral health along the continuum from prevention to treatment.
For both of our foundations, we like to think about what we can do beyond the check. How can we combine the art and science of grant making to have more impact not only for our mission, but for the missions of those that we partner and fund?
We think we're cool, caring people, though you might all think otherwise. We strive to be your partner rather than your bank. We work to be colleagues and sometimes friends. Even with those relationships, we realize that there is a significant power dynamic in philanthropy.
A long time ago, when I was the director of a after-school art program, I was standing in this vacant lot that was to become the Village of Arts and Humanities, waiting to meet Lily Yeh. And my coworker said to me, "No matter where you are, you look rich." And I've always carried that with me. And I also realize now that as a funder, with the money and the power that comes with that, we could make a choice about how can we start to acknowledge that power and then find productive ways to share it.
At the Scattergood Foundation, we embarked on a journey to walk the walk of trauma-informed grant making by employing a participatory grant-making strategy which centers on community voice and leadership. The Community Fund for Immigrant Wellness brought together a group of immigrant and refugee leaders from the community to identify key challenges, develop a grant-making strategy around those challenges, and to actually make the grants that make the difference. Recognizing that our money is power, we work to share the power with people and expertise in lived experience.
Okay, we know some things. And sometimes we can see maybe patterns or maybe overriding issues that are difficult for you to focus on while you're just head down trying to run your own organization. But the power and the deference that comes with this can actually make us think that we always know best.
What if instead of thinking that we always know best, we listened with humility to the voices of the communities that we serve?
So at the Bartol Foundation, we do a lot of listening. We do site visits to every potential grantee. So about 60 site visits a year by me or a board member, and most of our board members are also artists and arts educators. And then every summer, we survey the 2,000 teaching artists on our list and say, who are you teaching, what are you teaching, where are you teaching, but most importantly, what do you need from us to better support how you do your work? Yeah, we have this one. So, as a poet, I write a lot of bad poems. And then I workshop these poems and I revise them. And I have some friends who are kind poets who will read the really bad poems and help me figure out if there's a good poem hiding in there someplace. And I try things. Once I wrote poems on the boardwalk at the Jersey Shore. Once I did a sound poem on immigration that included that voice on the L that says, doors are closing. But the thing is, sometimes I get so afraid of writing a bad poem that I don't write any poems at all. Risk is part of being creative.
The dollars that sit in our endowments come from creative people who took tremendous risks to amass their wealth. The Fords, the Rockefellers, the Gates, all innovative thinkers who made huge technology advancements, and their business acumen fundamentally changed how we live our lives. However, there is a dark side to that risk-taking. Often their advancements were made on the backs of the poor and people of color, and now their charitable legacies often play it safe, where radical disruptive leadership is needed. Traditionally, the role of a foundation director is to preserve the foundation's capital by only spending 5% of the endowment on some of the most intractable problems that our communities face. It leaves me wondering, though, does a 5% spend lead us to producing only 5% solutions?
Mm-hmm.
So at the Valentine Foundation, they have an approach that we can all learn from. What they've done is they've sort of defined different kinds of social change, and then they've created this continuum of the time and the money you need to create that change. So changing one person's behavior may be faster and probably cheaper than changing a whole system or a whole policy. And it's critical as funders that we're mindful of what amount of resources it takes to make a positive impact, and then work with you to make good on your mission.
My 30 years of working in programs and answering to funders has given me an important perspective. What if instead of foisting impossible goals on our grantees, we recognize the gravity and the complexity of the challenges we face and approach our grantees with patience and flexibility? I think I'm out of line, man.
So as an arts foundation, we may say we don't do behavioral health.
And conventional wisdom would tell you that as a behavioral health funder, we don't get art.
But we challenge each other to work together. I read this book by dancer, choreographer, and social activist Liz Lerman called Hiking the Horizontal. And in it she says, when you find two things that seem to be in opposition, look for the larger truth that can contain both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, the larger truth is that we believe the arts belong everywhere. And as we've been on this journey, we came to understand that behavioral health belongs everywhere. A few years ago, we started a workshop series that we called Artist Plus. And what we did was we found partners in fields that we thought could benefit from the talent and the wisdom of artists. And then we did sessions like Artist Plus Community Development with LISC Philadelphia, and Artist Plus Literacy with Temple University's writing program. And our idea was to give teachers the time and space to learn and to teach, and maybe develop lasting partnerships. While we were out listening, our teaching artists kept telling us they wanted something they were calling classroom management. They saw students acting out, students shutting down, students who shared really deep personal stories. And as passionate, empathetic people, they did their best to manage these behaviors and to react with kindness and compassion. But often they struggled to find the necessary skills to deal with the social, emotional, and behavioral issues that they were seeing. And then often, what they would see would trigger something in themselves. And then they became fragile as they tried to take on so much. And when we dug deeper, we came to understand that many of the behaviors that these young people exhibited were actually symptoms of a larger issue. And that students were having a normal biological reaction to completely abnormal circumstances. We had our own trauma aha moment, and we decided to respond. And as we kind of walked this trauma-informed journey, it seemed to make sense to walk 10 feet down the hall to our office mates at the Scattergood Foundation.
And we're glad Beth did that. As a behavioral health funder, supporting the work that we do that drew on trauma-informed healing came naturally to us. For over a decade, we have done just that. We made early investments in the leaders of the trauma-informed movement like John Rich, Sandy Bloom, Martha Davis. We understand the link between adverse childhood experiences and behavioral health. And like Bartol, we soon came to think how trauma-informed principles could provide a new energy and wisdom in other fields. We wanted to support that growing movement, one where every human surveying system acknowledges adverse childhood experiences, trauma, toxic stress, and the impact that it has on individuals, where systems prioritize psychological safety, healing, and resilience. We support organizations along their trauma-informed journey, many of whom are not behavioral health providers, but schools, community development corporations, hospitals, and many others. We work with them to understand the most effective methods for translating this groundbreaking science into innovative transformational action. Along the way, we've come to appreciate the healing power of art. Art gives us a compelling way to tell creative stories. It allows us to express ourselves, our hopes, our fears, our success and our challenges. It is a critical outlet for people to share, heal, and build new strengths. So when our office mates came to ask us with ideas of creating a training program for artists, we said that was a no-brainer in terms of collaborating with Beth and Bartol.
So we started with one workshop, Artist plus Trauma-Informed Practice. And it was like we had turned on this light bulb and now we knew everything that we didn't know. And we also realized that one workshop here and there wasn't going to be enough to understand both the science of trauma and the application for teaching artists. In the past year, with support from the PHENND Foundation, we've created a 20-hour training on trauma-informed practice for teaching artists. And we start by understanding the science of adversity and toxic stress, and what are the behaviors when young people are impacted by trauma. And then we zero in on the ways that teaching artists can support students to thrive in a safe and creative environment and take care of themselves in the process.
So as many of you already know in your own experience, what happens when foundations share power, listen, and break down silos?
So in the first two workshops, in each of those workshops, 45 teaching artists applied for 12 spots. And the first class estimates that they'll work with 1,700 young people at more than 40 locations just this year. So what happens when we collaborate? This.
Teaching artists have this superpower of connection.
How can artists who teach in communities become informed and active partners for addressing trauma in young people?
I think we're loosening up. I'm loosening up with this man, and now I think we're building trust.
At the Bartol Foundation, we asked, what if teaching artists were given training in trauma-informed practice and how to apply this training to how they teach?
It's been really important to see all the facilitators that are coming in and all their techniques that they use and be able to integrate this kind of practice.
Our 20-hour training in trauma-informed practice for teaching artists gives them essential skills for their work at the intersection of behavioral health, education, and youth development. In our first two cohorts, almost 100 artists applied for the first 24 slots in the training. Now we want to scale it up, reach more artists, train more trainers, have more impact.
I recommend it highly. Thank you so much, Bartol.